So yeah, we're coming at you live from the Shelikof Lodge in Kodiak, and we had a crazy airplane. Probably someone going hunting. Had a crazy, fun, awesome adventure. So yeah, what'd you think about it?
It was a weird one, man.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, it was. It was a great hunt, truly.
Yeah.
It went bizarrely according to plan.
Yeah.
Very rarely do you concoct some like crazy idea for what a hunt is going to be like.
Yeah.
And then not only have that come to fruition, but have it come to fruition after like very repeatedly and violently having your hopes dashed several times.
That is true. Yeah. So, yeah, we've been planning this since like, you've been planning it since before Christmas, but I found out about it at Christmas time, and flew in with Seahawk Air, Roland, good dude.
The man, Roland, is a great pilot.
You flew with him before, right?
Yeah, I flew with him before, but my appreciation was like, a layman's appreciation back then. Having gone through and gotten
Now
my
you're a pilot.
ratings since then,
Yeah.
I'm like, that dude knows what he's. I mean, it's immediately obvious.
He's a commercial airline pilot, or was it?
Commercial pilot. Commercial multi-engine, commercial single-engine, or the latest ones I got. But like, basically, just after you do that training, you can tell that a dude like Roland is like the Jedi master of bush flight.
He's been flying up here for 40 years. So.
Yeah, he knows the
Fix your
deal.
mic a little bit. It's kind of like falling around. It's fine though. Whatever. It's fine if it doesn't. But anyway, so yeah, Roland's been up here flying for like 40 years. Super good dude. And so we got into Kodiak. It was a Sunday, right?
Yeah, we had like a lot of time on the front.
Yeah.
Not a lot of time. We had
A day or two.
We basically had a day and a half on the front end to set up everything logistically.
Do a little fishing.
Do a little, basically, yeah. Hit the salmon run. Silvers weren't quite running like we wanted, but we caught some cool pinks and stuff.
Some Dolly Varden.
Some
we
Dolly
cooked up
Varden.
some dollies for lunch one day at the Airbnb. So we stayed in the Airbnb. We got here, rented a car through Toro, and then did a little fishing. Flew out. Did we get delayed on flight out? I can't.
Nope.
No, we didn't.
Flew out on time. Basically, yeah, we had like just enough time to do a little bit of fishing, provision, pick our third guy up, and then roll out.
Yeah, so Tommy joined us, third member of the crew, and you'll see him in the film. But so yeah, we flew out on time. We thought we might get delayed because of weather, because you're always kind of at the mercy of the weather out here. But flew out on time. We got there, got out to this really beautiful alpine lake on the southern kind of end of the island, and we got our camp set up and went out to have a look around.
Yeah, man.
Stupidly, I brought my camera, but I forgot to put an SD card in it. So we were kind of just trying to get the lay of the land, and so I got a little cell phone footage of what happened. But
we're gonna have to. I'm gonna try, like, with a trip like this. There's so much stuff that you want to talk about, but I'm gonna try really hard to like condense it so that it's easy to follow from an audience's perspective. But basically, like, we get in there the first night and we're just like feeling our way around.
Yeah.
Shot a ptarmigan. Just getting like the lay of the land for.
Yeah, we shot a nice ptarmigan.
Yes, but just like getting the lay of our land for our campsite, seeing what it's all about. Because you get the view from the plane, but just so different when your boots on ground.
Yeah. Saw a lot of deer in the plane right in.
And so we like get camp set up, shoot ptarmigan. We're all like, just brand new to the area, and then we're like, okay, let's hop out on this glassing knob and see what's up.
No, what happened was you shot the ptarmigan, and we were trying to look for the ptarmigan.
No, you're right. It was while I was looking for the ptarmigan was when I spotted that thing.
And I looked down, and you're like, oh,
Yeah. All right. So basically, to summarize, we're like brand new to this area. Been there for just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Just kind of like screwing around, not even too far from camp, and we glassed up a beautiful big. I guess they'd call it a 3x3 up here.
Yeah, but for Eastern people, it's an 8-pointer. I mean,
yeah, it was a really, really nice, gorgeous buck, which retrospectively
full velvet
would have been in a great location to kill.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Like, so we glassed that thing up right off the bat, and we're just like,
he didn't have his rifle. I didn't have my rifle. Did Tommy even have his rifle?
No, Tommy didn't have his rifle.
Nobody had a rifle.
We were just like looking around. We could have gone back and gotten it though, and gotten that.
Oh yeah,
if we had wanted that
we
animal.
That close.
That animal, retrospectively, was like relaxed feeding and in the best position that we possibly could have. I don't know if but he was in like a great spot. Great spot to kill. And at that point, we were like, oh man, we found it. This place is going to be sick. Yeah. It's going to be a slam dunk. We're going to be out of here in a day and a half. Mm-hmm. It's just going to be, tapping the ball into the hole.
Honestly, I maybe underestimated the hunt, or I don't know. I did think we were going to finish earlier. I don't know, but for whatever reason,
it got, spoiler alert to the story, it got really hard.
But anyway, but like we're close to camp. Nobody has a rifle. I have a camera, but no SD card in it. We're just kind of trying to get a lay of the land. We end up spotting this really nice buck. We decide to back out, and we figure, we'll find him tomorrow or whatever. And then spot.
We were further baited after that point by Tommy's buck.
Right, but first, didn't we see those 2 bucks the next morning that we flared?
Yeah, we saw two. Basically, if we're going to go chronologically through events. Yeah. Then the
next morning,
first evening we see that hammer buck.
Yeah.
Second morning we're just again walking around the other side of camp, taking a view on the eastern side of where we were, and we kick up this ptarmigan as we're walking. Yeah. And the ptarmigan, anybody who's hunted up here knows that they have this very distinctive, loud like wing beat,
and they squawk when
they're flying. Exactly. Yeah. And so we kick up this ptarmigan, and this ptarmigan spooking drew the attention, like Hunter said, of 2 rather nice bucks that were with each other.
Yeah. And we saw them kind of take off around the hillside. And so that's, we're in this spot. We're like, okay, we've seen 3 shooter bucks.
And not only did they take off around the hillside, those 2 dudes were like right on each other's ass using the same game trail.
Yeah.
That was like very obvious. We were like, oh man, this is...
Yeah, lots of signs.
I had a moment where I was like, it looks too easy right now.
Yeah.
There's got to be a catch.
And then, so the weather was pretty good that day. And that afternoon, so the plan kind of from the beginning was we have our buddy Tommy with us. He's not here. He's not super, interested in being on camera. But whatever, you'll see him. He's a nice dude. And he is a great guy, likes to hunt. He's not quite as obsessed, I would say, with hunting as we are. Like he enjoys it.
He doesn't quite have the breadth of experience.
Yeah, and he likes it. But anyway, the kind of the plan.
Great guy, newer hunter.
Yeah, totally. We were kind of Ned, especially, kind of showing the ropes along the way, and I'm learning myself too. But newer hunter. But anyway, so the plan kind of was, and since this is my first time filming a hunt. The plan was we were going to get Tommy a buck first, and I could kind of get my camera systems dialed, get a good kill on camera. And then we kind of figured, let's get Ned one on camera next, and then hopefully I will get one third. And we even said, maybe we can double up at the end or something. But
so that's the plan is Tommy's never killed a blacktail. We want to get him one first, and then hopefully... By that time, we have a rep with the filming.
Yeah.
Get that dialed. Hopefully, we get a nice shot of me whacking one. And then, Hunter throws me the film gear and I film him whacking one. That's the plan. And like I said, we were cruelly baited into thinking that might happen the way that we thought. Because the first afternoon, we walk around and we're like, all right, Tommy, man, you're on point. You got this. We're going to go find you one. We're going to execute.
Yeah.
And that is... literally exactly what happened.
Yeah.
We walk around the corner of the first glassing knob closest to camp, and I see a red dot on the side of the hill. Yeah, I see a red dot on the side of the hill with my naked eye, probably 500 yards away, and I'm like, and I pull out the binos. I could see his rack already with the 10x binos from 500 or 600 yards. I was like, all right, Tommy.
Bedded, chewing his cud, chilling.
Bottom line, to give a quick synopsis of that, the animal beds directly facing away from us.
Well, yeah, first of all, he was facing directly towards us, and then a gift from God, he literally just randomly stands up, turns 180 degrees away from us, and beds back down.
Yeah, and into the wind. So, like, we have perfect wind. The animal's facing away from us. He's bedded on this wide open hillside. I'm like, dang, dude, this is just going to be sick.
Yeah.
And, like, to cut to the chase, it was, man. We made an awesome stalk on it. Hunter got his film gear set up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't get the good audio of them doing that, but it's still cool. I get the whole stalk. I got the shot. And got the reaction, so it was
a real like classic Kodiak blacktail situation. We saw this thing bedded from a long way away. Early season, got that bright orange coat, just stand out, almost like they're lit up in the sun. And we got a nice salmonberry stalk through there, stalking through some alders and salmonberries, and then. We just got up to a rocky promontory about 220 yards away. I broke down a shooting lane for Tommy, ranged it for him, hold 3 inches high and send it. And gave him a little shave with the first round, but put him down on the second one.
But yeah, second round, he got it in there.
Yeah.
Killed him like that.
Yeah, bottom line is that whole scenario the first evening was... like, it couldn't have been really much more textbook than that.
Yeah.
It's like, we saw one, executed that great stalk on it, in beautiful, like, conspicuously beautiful Kodiak conditions.
Yeah.
Conditions that were almost too good to be true.
Yeah, and so, like, a week before this, my Weather Channel app, said the weather was going to basically rain and be, terrible the entire time. But then it kind of started to change. It looked like we might be getting some patchy stuff in sun for most of the time or whatever. Even the pilot, when he dropped us off, was like, look like you boys are going to get some nice weather. But anyway, so after that day, it just, the weather was awful.
Yeah, so, like, everything's going wonderfully according to plan. Like, we get our buddy.
Seeing bucks.
Our first deer. We're seeing a bunch of deer everywhere. And then it's like...
Easy pack out too,
easy, quick pack out, like everything good. And then anyone who's hunted in Alaska knows how the next part goes. Like it was like the next, really 96 hours almost.
Yeah.
It was like just a combination of one or several of like 20 to 30 knot winds, they're gusting to 35 probably.
Yeah.
Enough to destroy the poles of one of our gear.
We had like
setups.
a little gear shelter to have a dry spot.
Yeah, so
broke the pole.
So like extreme winds, zero visibility virtually.
Yeah. There was one time we were literally on the glassing knob and you couldn't see like 75 yards.
Oh no, you were
in a cloud.
less than that. that I ranged the wall of that ravine away from us was like 50 yards, and you couldn't even see it.
You couldn't see 50.
Visibility
yards.
was less than 50 yards at some point.
Literally in a cloud.
So we had like extreme wind, zero visibility, driving rain. Like all of those together.
All the Alaska stuff.
Man, like again, to try to reduce it to a manageable length, like we got out there and we did it. Like we glassed.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
We were putting in
a lot.
10 to 12 hour days every day. We'd go out in the morning early, hunt for like 4 to 6 hours, take like a 2-hour break in the middle of the day, and then go back out. And we were putting in basically about 11-hour days, like glassing and just in that weather. And we were seeing does with fawns up and moving because, I guess they got to keep their kids fed and whatever. But the bucks were just gone.
I'll add to that kind of started to trickle out towards the end of that weather window.
True, we were seeing less does.
It was like just a sporadic deer here and there. You could tell like by the end of that, they were, very much just in preservation mode where they just bed down and they would just sit there.
Yeah.
And like I watched one actually remember that one that I watched across the way? She like, I was glassing a likely spot that we had through the spotter. And I like saw this thing stand up, like stretch out, shake off a little bit, take a few bites, browse, and then just sit back down, all in like less than 20 seconds.
Right.
It was like, and it just disappeared.
Yeah.
Like you would 0% be able to see it if you look back 30 seconds after that. So like, those deer were just bedded down, invisible, not moving at all. And I will also observe, too, that the way that we did this hunt, for anybody who's interested in doing Kodiak blacktail, we did, like, essentially the most masochistic version of this hunt. Like we were in goat and sheep territory. Our transporter actually
it was a goat lake.
Yeah, our transporter was like, "Hey, how many goats did y'all get?" Because they forgot that where we were we were deer hunting. So like
we were up there.
You can do deer hunts on Kodiak that are much less painful than this, that do not involve packouts with thousands of feet of elevation cumulatively after you do all your trips. But we hate ourselves, so we did that.
Yeah, it's just beautiful up there this time of year, though.
No, it's incredible. Yeah. It's like it's kind of like one of those.
It's like the high mountain bucks.
Nothing good comes easy, right? Like you have to be really dedicated to the idea of doing like the high alpine buck hunt, because I mean if you want to kill like a nice hard-horned buck, there are way easier ways to do it than the way that we did.
Yeah.
Like we were up there side hilling through scree and boulder fields and stuff.
Yeah.
And like you don't have to do that to do a blacktail hunt on Kodiak.
The deer, like we noticed, they kind of hang out right as the tree line sort of starts, right when you go from like that tundra kind of spongy stuff into where it starts getting like heavier alders and salmonberry and stuff. And they kind of just get in these little patches of like these open patches, but if they want to, they will just disappear in that stuff. And that's what they did for most of the week.
Honestly. Yeah, it's actually fun watching them through the glass when they do that, because I mean, some of these areas, you always hear people talking about Kodiak, like on the flight in. Roland said this a few times, you may remember. He's like, "Oh man, the place looks like a golf course from the air."
Yeah.
But then you get on the ground and it's like
a different story.
12-foot tall salmon berries, which for anyone who's never been up here, basically like raspberry bushes.
Tastes really good, but
yeah, delicious berries. Delicious berries, very thick, and
thorns.
Yeah, thorns. It's and you can see the deer just like, I mean, out 1 second, and if they want to be gone, it is a vanishing act, like I was saying earlier. And I mean, bottom line, that is what happened for 3 days. We just spent a ton of time on the glass.
We basically knew there were deer there, but just weren't going to see them. Like, so that was kind of frustrating. And I started going through like the mental, game of like, all right, well, I was starting to like get to the acceptance mode of like, looks like I'm going home from another Alaska trip, empty-handed, like.
And at that point, man, we're pulling out all the stops. We're doing we're checking corners of drainages that we haven't looked at since the first day of the hunt, and we're like, oh man, maybe if we look in the lee, there'll be stuff.
Yeah.
We did everything.
We even like shifted. So at one point we had been kind of hunting up till about 7-ish, and then going back for dinner. And then like one of the last nights, sort of end of the week, we were like, let's like change it up. So we actually went out at like 7 and I stayed out till 10.
I went back early. I was like, nah,
it was
man.
Windy. But I stayed out there on the glassing knob till 10 p.m. I saw one buck like probably at least a mile.
That's over a mile.
Over a mile away, and through in territory we knew had grizzlies in it, and was anyway.
Yeah,
the
like
thought crossed my mind
basin
of going out there at like 9:30 alone after this buck, and like I'm very glad I was not stupid enough to try that.
All right, so retrospectively,
oh yeah,
having now been down in that basin,
right? Oh, I'm so glad I didn't do that.
I mean, the number of things like you could
multiple river crossings.
Multiple river crossings. You could slip on a rock, get a tib fib. I mean, you'd be
multiple grizzlies spotted.
Yeah, right. Like a grizzly family that we have seen multiple times in that area.
And to describe the area, it was like from our campsite, there's probably like a, I don't know, 200 or 300 yard or foot elevation gain. And then it went around a little bit, and then you could see down into this kind of big open valley with like great habitat, a couple streams running through it, some thickets, and then the opposite side had a big ridge. And so I was seeing stuff like, we'd saw a couple bucks, even when it was slower, like maybe 2 bucks, way over across, maybe 2 miles across on that other ridge through this place we named the Safari Park, and saw grizzlies down there multiple times. But anyway, I was just getting to that point where I was like, coming to accept the fact, like, all right, this is not going to happen again. We're going to go home empty-handed. Our friend who is a newer hunter, is going to go home with this great buck, and we've been planning this trip forever, and we're going to go home empty-handed. And but it did kind of have like it actually kind of helped me get into this frame of mind where I wasn't so worried about like the pressure I put on myself with the film and like getting a deer, where I was just kind of like, all right, I just need to enjoy this experience and like enjoy the fact that I'm here and not get so worried about like the film and getting the deer. And so I really like actually it helped me kind of slow down and just really enjoy being there, because I was coming to grips with the fact that that might be all I was coming home with was memories, you know?
Yeah.
Did you get down to some low depths in those times?
Oh man. All right. So like one detail that cannot be left out of the story of just our specific hunt that also I think probably applies to anybody who's interested in hunting Alaska is that I had a really critical piece of gear failure happen.
Yeah.
And I had these pretty high-speed Salawa mountain trainer boots that fit me great. They're nice, light, pretty like good for that alpine hunting stuff. They're awesome fit-wise, but this is the second pair. I got a pair replaced last year after the Gore-Tex failed, and they lost their waterproofing. The exact same thing. Honestly, this is kind of on me for trusting them. I tested them out, and their waterproofing is good initially. About 10 miles in, they become about as waterproof as a kitchen sponge. And I mean,
soaking wet feet.
A bit of a connoisseur of being cold and wet and miserable. And
and this dude's pretty tough.
Well, no, like I just have a lot of experience with that in my life. Yeah. And that morning that we were glassing with zero visibility and my boots were just squishing water every step and blowing like 20 miles an hour. Yeah, I was like, dude, I'm not in any shape to shoot anything past about 50 yards because I'm like...
I mean, I had way more clothes on than him and like sitting on a glassing pad and dry feet.
You got it.
And I was still a little chilly.
The point is you gotta have footwear that you are really
confident
in. And like the fact that there had been a past failure in that exact pair of boots, I was like, it's on me for having trusted them to some extent, because like I tested that first pair out and they were good to go initially, and the waterproofing seems to lose its effectiveness like
quickly
as soon as you get a few miles in on them. So like, so
don't buy these boots.
That really impacts
these boots. Mine.
That really
the crispy Ativa mids.
For anyone who's thinking about
held up well.
Doing an Alaska trip, who's like us, like non-resident from another state, just imagine that you're like 4 days into a trip and like the air temperature outside is 40 degrees in the morning, and it's like, all right, I got to go out and get to that glassing knob to see what it looks like at first light, and just imagine the difference between like, I got to put on some nice, snug, dry boots and putting on like cold,
sponges,
wet, sodden. I mean, it is.
Because all his socks were wet too.
Yeah, I mean, my socks were dry, but they'd get wet as soon as you put those things on. Yeah. And as soon as you like walk through about 10 feet of vegetation, which just hold many gallons of water, it's like you're just screwed. So just make very, very sure if you're a non-resident, think about doing Alaska. God, you just gotta have waterproof, good fitting footwear is that's towards the top of the list. Absolutely essential.
These are what I wore. Crispy Ativa mids. They did great. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. So to cut to the chase again.
Yeah.
As we're going to bed after 3 days of just absolutely getting beat, just like glassing our asses off, not really seeing much. What
like wind that like almost knocked me over
and broke our shelter. So anyway, miserable 3 days. What was my line right before we went to bed on the fourth day?
He was talking about the high pressure system rolling in and how it might be our best shot.
I was like, morale was at a very low point there. We're like, we're like starting to ration our food. We're now like 4.5, 5 days into the hunt total, and like,
Starting to worry about Tommy's meat.
We're like, God, is that meat that got down on the night of the first full day going to be okay?
Side note, we did build a little meat cache and had it up on some rocks, so it did actually last, and it's fine. But
actually, yeah, that's a good one to touch on real quick. Having just processed that meat, like, I'm kind of a meat snob.
He really is.
I'm very, very particular about the way that meat gets handled in field care.
I almost slapped him a couple times.
Yeah. That system of setting up rocks that cool down at night, that's one that I got from Larry.
Because there's no trees to build anything or hang anything
and
like that.
It is extraordinarily effective. Those rocks stay cold, and they retain that cold that they gather during the night, in addition to getting your meat up off the ground, getting some air circulation through there.
So we built a little rock platform from the lake.
Yeah, just build like a platform of large rocks that have large enough gaps in them that the air flows through underneath your meat, elevates it up off the ground, and then, like I said, also the rocks cool down at night.
Yeah.
It's just like a heat sink. It keeps your meat nice and cool.
And then, of course, good game bags.
Yeah, absolutely essential to have good game bags to keep the
Shameless
insects
plug.
out.
I used Argali game bags, and they worked really well. They had some different brand, but I liked my Argali bags.
Whichever one you get, that is another really crucial investment.
Yeah.
Is like pay the extra $20 for good game bags. That's
and you
best
can, like,
$20 you ever spend.
The Argali ones, you can reuse them, you can wash them. They don't break. They're pretty tough. So anyway. Yeah, we had a meat cache built that kept, rain and sun, if there was any sun, for like 5 minutes off it.
So, night before the last day, we're like sitting there.
That's the night I sat on the glassing knob till 10.
Yeah.
And I saw this buck like miles away. I named him Zelda because the place where it looked like he lived was like this crazy, rocky, craggy area. I saw him. I basically put him, well, I don't know if he'd be put him to bed because it was night. And anyway, I saw him in this area milling around. And the thought sort of crossed my mind to go after him. It was not a real thought. There's no way. Okay, it was 9:30.
I'm glad you didn't, man.
It would have been bad.
That would have been a real show.
Yeah. So anyway, came back but then the next day was our last day.
Yeah, it's the night before our last full day. Morale.
Not even the last full day. It was the last half day. We were supposed to get picked up.
That's right. We had like one period of hunting left. It was just
one morning, and we were getting flown out.
And I order an inReach weather report, and I'm like, okay, well, looks like this high pressure system might finally be coming in.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's not familiar with like the nerdy part of meteorology, basically like high pressure commonly associated with good weather, and like all of that cloudy, nasty, rainy stuff that we had been having for the past few days, moody weather, is stereotypically associated with lows. And I saw, like, on the inReach report, a pretty precipitous rise in barometric pressure. And I was like, you know
Wind was
what?
supposed to lay down a little.
You know what? I said, Hunter, man, maybe this high comes in, and maybe they're just out there strolling out tomorrow morning.
Yeah. So Ned notices higher pressure rolling in. The evening before was actually nice in terms of sunniness. This is one reason why I stayed out on that ridge till 10 o'clock. But windy as junk. I was getting in the face. I was wearing like every stitch of clothing I had.
That was like 30 knots of wind.
Yeah.
Like a sustained 20, 25 knots of wind, gusts up to 30, 35. And like, that's something that I would also pass on to any out-of-state guys trying to do Alaska, is like one of the really big points that I have learned up here is that when conditions are really terrible like that, you're not likely to see a lot of game.
Yeah.
And it's best
save yourself
sometimes. Not always, of course. There's exceptions to every rule, but
he always says backcountry longevity.
Yeah, backcountry longevity, man. If you
if you murder yourself,
if you just kill yourself, just staying out there and whatever it is, it's like, okay, well, Sometimes it's best to just do what the animals do, like move with the rhythm of the environment where you are, and like
don't fight it.
Yeah,
move with it.
Don't fight it.
Yeah, that's true.
If those animals are just sitting tight because it is nasty. I mean, that's what I did that night. I went back and I had a nice hot mountain house, and I got in my nice sleeping bag, and read a book, and it was great.
Yeah. So that's definitely a good point. But that one
Not as hardcore as you, to be sure.
I mean,
I was impressed.
I like getting, I like getting alone sometimes. On these hunts. Not like, I like hunting with people, but I also like just for a couple hours every now and then getting alone and just kind of getting a reset and just kind of taking it all in. But that next morning, it was like I said, we were scheduled to fly out. Did you have something?
That morning, it was like when we woke up. It's like you're starting to get the first like pings of it getting really light through your tent.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up that morning, and it was cool enough to the point where your like mummy sleeping bag, you have to like retreat a few inches into it because like the outside air is uncomfortably cold, and you have to kind of like let your sleeping bag warm the air before you breathe in it for it to feel really good. And that was a great sign. Yeah. Because usually higher pressure, usually descending air, which generally lower temperature, not always, but so that, and then I noticed that our tents were not just like wind socks. Yeah. So as soon as those two things were verified for me, I was like, ooh, man, this could be good. This could be good.
Before that, so I pretty much every morning woke up an hour before these guys because, I mean, I like to take my time in the morning anyway. I like to eat a good breakfast, use the restroom. But also, I got tons of camera gear to change batteries, check cards, pack up my stuff that was kind of, just get organized, eat my breakfast, like I said. So I was up at dark, getting everything ready. And, I just take a little bit more time. This guy is like, he grabs his pack and he's like up the mountain. I'm like, hey, what up? So, when he's ready to go, he's ready to go. So, but I need a little more time. So I was up this particular morning. I actually was like, pack on, ready to go. And he was kind of like, this is the first morning of the entire week. I think he ate a hot breakfast. And so.
It was just so cold, man.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, glassing longevity, you're going to want a hot breakfast before.
I know, it was like the first morning, because I knew this was like our last shot, I felt like. And he knew it too, but I was just ready to go. So anyway, we got out there.
Yeah, long story short, we get to the glassing knob, and the conditions are like everything we thought that they could be and more.
Wind was calm.
Wind was like...
Sun was out.
Wasn't quite dead calm.
No,
it was like
Kodiak calm.
It was Kodiak calm. If I could like order a magical breeze to have for hunting, like enough to mask some noise, enough to keep your scent like consistently dispersed in one direction, and like enough to be pretty predictable. That's exactly what it was, and which also is a reduction of wind in the past 12 hours at that point by like 80% probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So anyway, wind is much calmer, nice, consistent, clear, crisp morning. Yeah. I was like, man. We get up to the glassing knob and we like saw a few does initially. And then Hunter spotted that buck.
I spotted Zelda.
Way the hell across that basin.
I still had him on my mind from the night before.
Yeah.
So I literally looked over in the same spot, and he was about 20 or 30 yards from where I'd seen him the night before. And this was, this was like one of the very few bucks we had seen like all week. And this is our last morning, so we see him and like we're kind of like, we didn't really want to go all the way over there because it's far. And he's moving. He's not bedded. But I was like, I didn't know.
If you guys have ever seen a retriever that's being like trained to retrieve ducks, and its owner like takes out that fake duck, and as soon as the owner takes that fake duck out of the bag, the dog is just like, that was Hunter on that buck. He was. I saw him when he glassed that thing up. He was like, dude, I got him. I was like, all right.
Also, because usually Ned spots everything because he has like freaking eagle eyes or something. But anyway, I finally spotted a buck.
Hunter, it was a great spot, man. Yeah. It was objectively awesome spot on that buck. But like, we looked at him and we were like, okay, that's a hell of a long way. If we go over there, we're gonna blow this basin out, most likely.
And we saw grizzlies down there.
And like there was a feeding grizzly,
huge one,
pretty close to where we would have needed to go for that.
Yeah, there was basically a cub and mama grizzly, a big one, right in our direct path to
Right.
this deer.
So basically, at that point, we're like, okay,
That would be
we're just gonna watch that. We're gonna table.
yeah, I literally said
that.
I literally said, Ned, I'm gonna keep my eye on him in case he bedded down and we needed to make a play later. You look down in the basin for other deer.
Well, yeah, it was basically, yeah, we were basically like, look, we gotta give this a few minutes just to see what happens.
Sure, yeah.
Because with that, the change in conditions, I was like, dude, we gotta at least see what happens once stuff starts waking up with this change in weather, and yeah. Like, to continue with the retriever analogy, Hunter's just watching that thing. He's
I was
like,
locked on.
He is thinking about.
I was thinking that might be
about
the thing
around passing through that thing's shoulder blades. He's like, dude, I'm ready to kill that buck.
Yeah.
And right as his excitement meter is like getting ready to break the gauge,
I wasn't that excited.
yeah, dude, you're stoked to go kill that thing.
Dude, I was just like, keep
Which,
on.
rightfully so. I mean, that honestly,
I just didn't want to lose him.
That was a
our only
beautiful,
buck we
beautiful
saw.
buck. Yeah, no, very valid. But like, anyway, point is, we were very excited. Both were. I was stoked about seeing that buck. But like right as we were maybe getting ready to start talking about a way to get over there, I'm like, dude, I got 2 of them.
Yeah.
And
Way closer.
they're like a third of the distance away. And also, I was looking through my 10x binos, and like I saw antlers on one of them, and I was like, okay, that's a pretty good buck. And then I saw something on the other one, and I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe he's like under a tree. Maybe that's part of like an alder. And then he like moved his head, and like the whole rack moved, and I was like, oh.
So he knew there was 2 bucks down there.
Well, I knew that.
Well, you said there was.
I knew that there was
bucks.
one. I knew that there was one buck that was pretty good, and the other one, I was like, there is a fair chance that I just spotted an actual monstrosity down there.
Yeah.
And we've been going off the you spot it, you got it rule.
Yeah.
So basically, we were like, I was like, man, I think there are 2 of them down there. I know one of them's decent, and I think one of them might be like a real freak. And so I was like, dude, let's get eyes on these things. If we can confirm that they are gonna be there and feeding and look like they're in a stalkable position, we gotta send it on that.
Yeah. I mean, he saw him, and he, you know, I could tell just from his voice and body language that like he saw something good. And I looked. You did say there's 2 bucks. I remember. You're like, there's 2 of them.
Probably got it on audio.
I might. I'm not sure if I was recording at that time. But anyway, he saw him. I did put glass on them. I only saw one. And again, I could tell he was nice, but I didn't spin it. But it was like quick decision. It was like, all right, let's go.
No,
I knew he was ready to send it, so I just started to put. Because I had all my crap out. I had puffies out. I had tripod out. I had water bottle that rolled like 30 yards down the hill. So I had to like retrieve all my gear, put it, and then like we went.
Yeah, basically we both looked at each other and we were like, all right, last morning we have these 2 killable bucks that are on a hillside that looks like it's going to present a decent shot, may present a decent shot to us. You can never really tell until you're on the X, but like looked like a pretty good setup. Yeah. 2 bucks feeding right next to each other, looking relaxed.
You
good
like,
wind.
this is it.
I was like, this is our chance right now. Yeah. We got to go. And we threw all of our stuff together and hopped down. That drainage camouflaged us nicely, kept our relative.
We went down the other
minimal.
side of this ridge, so we were kind of like, we weren't Skylander behind the ridge going down.
You guys will see it if you guys will see the stalk if you watch the video.
I got a pretty good amount of footage of that stalk.
It's we were really fortunate with the way that I mean, again, we were kind of blessed with the way everything worked out.
Yeah, totally blessed. Yeah, at one point we were kind of following a little creek too.
Yeah, that's that low. Drainage. The end of that drainage, we just stayed like low and kind of camouflaged in with that scree in there, and then we just kind of started hopping salmonberry to salmonberry bush, and like eventually I range them at like 280. And I see one more little salmonberry bush, and I'm like, all right, we got to get up to that thing.
So at this point, I'd say we're about 250, like the last salmonberry we were at. And this kind of thought had been playing through my head this whole time, too. Is another thing I was kind of processing during this, like, few days of not seeing deer, like, am I a hunter first or am I a cameraman first? And that's hard because I'd want to make a really good film, but I ultimately decided, like, I'm a hunter first. Like, I wouldn't be here doing this if I wasn't a hunter. So, like, if an opportunity presents itself to, like, kill a deer, but I might not get great footage, I'm going to kill the deer and not, like, get a little bit better footage and not film my tag. That's just the decision I made. So, and that, you know, that resulted in me a few days before kind of doing a little solo hunt and kind of thinking about all this stuff. And that was the first time, like, the day before this was the first time I actually put a round in my gun and actually held my gun and walked around and, like, hunted. I was like, I've been totally a cameraman for a week. Like, I want to hunt. So that's what I did. And that's when I did a lot of thinking and processing. Anyway, back to the story. I put my pack down and I kind of have a decision to make. Do I rip out my other camera and tripod and take this camera that I'm using right now and try to get, like, the best footage possible? What do I do? Ultimately, I decide no. So I took the camera that I'm using right now for recording on. I put that on a tripod. It is not my longest lens, but it's the best one I had. Put it on the tripod at about 250, zoomed in as far as I could, set the focus as good as I could, because this stuff is happening fast, and he's racking a shell in, he's sneaking up to the next spot. I had a split decision to make. Instead of getting the other camera, I ripped out my rifle, I chambered around, and I put this camera on the tripod, got the deer as good a focus I could, and I said, you know, I'm a hunter, so I'm going to go hunt. And took my handheld camera with me at least, and then got up there, and then so what happened from there?
Well, we got up to we were low crawling. There was nothing. There were just short salmon berries, like knee height salmon berries, up to this one little alder bush. Yeah, we get up to that last alder. I peek around. I see them. At this point, we're like 220. And
I got a final range on them at 220.
Yep, you got that final range. You can hear me asking you in the video, like, just confirm that. Okay, cool, 220. And they're, like, really on the hill we were on was not a good area to get prone, that it looked like immediately. And I'm just, like, searching. I'm like, God, there's, you know, any kind of shot that's not prone at 220 yards is pushing it.
Yeah.
I was like, we need to get on the ground somehow. And there was just one
good job finding a spot.
little rock. And I kind of, like, saw it, and I was like, all right, we got to get over there. So we, like, army crawl through these short salmonberry bushes over to this thing. And sure enough, I, like, look out from around it, and it's just, like, a beautiful shot to this hillside. Just, like, I mean,
and the 2 bucks are...
It's almost like a range. And I was like, okay, and there's one, and there's two.
They're probably 10, 15 yards from each other.
Yeah, they were feeding together as a group. I saw my guy that I'd seen initially, and, like, yeah, you know, that was, like, from the time I saw that thing, I was like, dude, sorry, man, I gotta call that one.
Oh yeah, he did. Like, dude, I'm sorry, I gotta call the big one. I saw it. And I was like,
that thing. That thing
he deserves it.
I looked at it through the binos, and I was like, from up at the top of the hill, like 700 yards away or whatever, I looked at it, and I was like, oh my God. And then I was setting the magnification on my second focal plane rifle scope for the holdovers, which you really don't need to do at 200, but just kind of like a force of habit. And, like, as I was doing that, I was on max mag for the ballistic subtensions, and I kind of, like, accidentally, like, looked at this thing for a second through it, and I was like, oh God.
I couldn't even see his bucket.
Oh.
Yeah.
and so I, like...
He cleared a little shooting lane.
I cleared a shooting lane. I
go
up there with my knife, I think. Clear a shooting lane of the last little bit of the samberries in between us and the deer. Throw the pack down, get out the rear rest, get in a nice neutral shooting position, point of aim at the bucks.
Yeah.
And it was.
And I got the footage of him. I got my little Osmo pocket.
Yeah.
I'm shooting, like, video of him getting set.
It was a.
And I had the wherewithal to. We were both wearing wireless mics, so I got the good audio on this one, which is cool.
Oh man, after days and days of us just getting crushed by, like, some conditions that, like, objectively are pretty miserable to be in. It's like things are finally just coming together, and it's like that moment where you can just almost taste victory, but you're still like, there's so many things in this next 60 seconds. There are so many thousands of things that can go wrong. But it's just like, okay, you know, we've practiced this a lot of times. Like Hunter and I spent a lot of time, you know, we did load development for his rifle, my rifle. We did those together. I hand loaded all of the ammo for this trip. Shout out to Hammer Bullets in Montana. Those things are tack drivers and super badass on game, as you'll see if you watch the video. But anyway, just like, you know, we'd been hitting the range, taking the prep really, really seriously. So as like, I knew that we had done like just about everything possible to mitigate all of the things that could go wrong in that next very short period but dynamic period of time. Yeah. And I was like, okay, you know, like it's just like when I was in the military back in the day, it's like you just go back to your training. You like it's a high paced situation, but you just you know what you've been training for, man. And you're ready for it, and like send it. So anyway, break down the shooting lane. We knew that they were at the same range, and at that specific moment, I saw my guy like start looking like he's getting ready to crest this hill, and I was like, oh god, dude, if we lose this shooting position, the stalk is just gonna get so weird, and like that thing might never even show back up.
And looking back, there would have been no good way to get around.
It would have been real hard to make that happen from there, not to mention going closer to where we saw that grizz. So basically, I was like, all right, I have about 10 seconds to make this happen. And I just like started concentrating on my breathing, and I was like, you know what, man, 220 yards, that's not that bad. Just 3 inches high, breathe in 3 times, slowly breathe out, squeeze. And I had no idea what happened when my rifle went off. All I know is that the buck disappeared when I got back on the hillside. I didn't know whether I hit him or not, but I looked up and I saw the second buck, and I was like, Hunter, get on the rest right now, hit that thing. And sure enough, he just hops right on there, racks one in, bam. And I was watching with not even binos. I was just watching with my naked eye as the second one just got whacked. I mean, it was just like strings cut off. Like I said, shout out again to Hammer Bullets. It was you guys will watch the video, but it's just like bam, flop, bam, flop. Yeah. And
so I'm shooting the video of him getting the first shot, so I'm not looking at the deer. He shoots, and he's like, I think he went down. And then I couldn't see his deer when he shot. I just saw mine, so I wasn't sure. I was a little bit of confusion there. You'll probably see it in the video. But yeah, I wish I'd had the wherewithal to give him the camera, but at that point, like I said, I was just like, I'm a hunter right now. I'm gonna get this deer. I'm not letting this pass.
And we got the video of the actual deer too.
Yeah. So
it's a good shot.
I throw the camera down. I pick my rifle up. I see my deer still.
I probably should have picked the camera up at that point. I probably should have recognized that, but I was just so focused on spotting for you.
Yeah,
I was like,
no worries. Got on that second. He actually was still bedded, and I just remember just looking up, just confirming there was antlers on him.
He was bedded, and he was looking at his buddy. Yeah. He was like, "What the hell just happened to that thing?" Yeah. And I was like, "Hunter, he's the one that's bedded right under that alder. Yeah. Send it."
And yeah, I just like kind of blanked out. I was just like 200 second hash, bang, and boo, dropped.
These Hammer Bullets have this really wild characteristic of making these vapor trails that for anyone who played Halo, the video game as a kid, like it's almost as exaggerated as like they have these crazy vapor trails.
You'll see on the video, it's like you can see the smoke like a vapor trail.
I saw it with my bare eyes.
You did?
It was
on
just,
my shot?
Yeah, it was just like a laser slipping in right behind this thing's shoulder, and I just saw him go down. You even hear me on the video. I'm like, yep. That one's down.
Yeah, that one's down.
There's no ambiguity about that.
And it was just like perfect. Like we got it on. Like we talked about. Like I remember at one point I think he had mentioned like, yeah, maybe we'll double up.
Yeah, maybe we'll get Tommy one and then we can double right up.
Yeah, like just like this.
Just as like this
pipe dream thing.
Crazy off the cuff suggestion of something that's like so unlikely to happen.
Yeah. And we did.
Like what are the chances of that actually coming together under field conditions and like so 2 bucks going right down with good shots after a great stalk with perfect conditions? Like it doesn't happen. Like there's always something.
move on.
But it was like
me
two
on
bang flops in 30 seconds. It was just like, wow. And like, you know, watching the video, you can see it now. Like, you can see why my buck disappeared because, I mean, that thing hit him and he's just.
Yeah.
And then and then your buck, the exact same thing. He's just like,
yeah. I actually
down.
saw mine go down. And, yeah, like after that long week we had, it was just, you'll see the celebrate. I mean, we were just stoked, man.
I mean, we were, night before, we were like, God, we're probably not going to fill these tags, man.
Yeah.
And to go from that to like the craziest scenario of, I mean, that's why, like, great animals that we shot, but cooler than either of the animals, honestly. It like cooler than the score of either than the animals, whatever. None of that really comes anywhere close to how cool that experience was. It was just so sick, like spotting two of them. Okay, that could be a good pair for us to do this, double up, and then just like getting down there, conditions perfect, finding that one little tiny ass rock that gave us our shooting lane. Okay, bam, you hop on the bag, bam, got the second one, and like 2 bucks down within yards of where they got hit. Like, I mean, like I said,
so close to each other, we could process them like while talking.
Yeah, just like we just had like a processing party when we got over to them, but like it just doesn't like. In the real world, stuff doesn't happen like that, and like Hunter and I mean, you can even see in the video, we're like, dude, if that came together that way, this would just be astonishingly cool. Which I still didn't know if my buck was down. I like, for all I knew, I could have totally whiffed it, and he could have just been in Timbuktu by then. But
I didn't think so. But
tell how that went. So you were walking up.
Yeah. So you were he was still not sure if he got his buck. Definitely saw my buck go down. But I knew you got him. Like, I didn't think you would miss. So, but I know how you are, and if you had missed, that would have sucked for everybody involved.
Oh God, I'd be hiding.
Yeah. But anyway, so man, so let's see. Then we start walking, and we're really close to where these grizzlies were that we saw. So
that's why in the video I'm like, we're I think you were.
Oh yeah,
saying
he's like,
something.
we gotta get up there quick.
I was like, dude, we gotta get these things like.
And so we're yelling like, "Hey bear," the whole way, and we walk up on Ned's buck. What was that like? We finally got a close look at this thing. It's a monster.
Yeah, it was weird.
All right, we gotta show him. we were. It's not in here by design to show you guys necessarily. He caped this thing out in the hotel room, but
yeah, like I hadn't planned on doing
deer.
Had really not planned on doing a shoulder mount, but like. I don't know. Like, you walk up on a blacktail like this, you probably should. Yeah.
He's got like crazy mass in here.
Palmation on both sides.
Yeah.
Split G2s.
Yep. Nice eye guards and this extra like dagger thing right here. I mean, this is like weird. Like, this is like a nice whitetail. Like, blacktails are supposed to be smaller. This thing is like ancient. So sick buck. My buck is nice. Like a nice, good, respectable, decent, like blacktail. But like next to this thing, it looks like a baby. You'll see mine later. He's down in the fridge. So
no, he's like a beautiful representative buck, man.
He's like a good. What was he? 7 point by Eastern standards, but I don't know what they'd call him.
You call him a 7 point. He's
3x2.
That's like a nice representative Kodiak blacktail, man.
Yeah, he's got nice eye guards.
That's a good one. I'll tell you what. If I had woken up that morning and known that I was going to shoot an animal like that, I would have just been tickled pink, man.
Oh yeah, no, I was stoked with them.
That was. I mean, both beautiful bucks.
Yeah. Big bodied.
I just like
big bodied.
Yeah. I mean, it was just both of them were big bodied, nice, healthy, beautiful animals. It was just such a crazy scenario.
Yeah, the experience.
I mean, that coming together like that, and also one of the bucks just being absolutely
buck of a lifetime,
ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I'll never kill one that size again, I'm sure. But
definitely, amazing animal. So yeah, it was amazing, and just like I guess it's kind of like a perfect ending to it. Just how Ned kind of brought me in to Western hunting with our trip to Alaska last year, and learned a lot from him, and he's helped me out along the way. And then, we've been planning this trip for a long time, working on it, practicing, whatever. And then kind of like, I don't know, like it just doesn't happen that much to get like tag team double on a buck.
Yeah,
so.
it's just like, I mean,
It was awesome.
you just got to be really thankful for opportunities like that when you get them, man.
Big time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of firsts. Like you said, your first animal
Alaskan,
Western, your first Alaskan big game animal, your first big game animal Western hunting. First 2 animals that had ever been killed with my reloads within 30
and we
seconds of
broke
each
a
other.
long there's a long standing before this, like, I don't know what you'd call it, but like every time we hunt together, which is kind of unfortunate since we started kind of being hunting partners, but seems like pretty much nothing dies whenever we're hunting together.
Well, there's always like some weird string of events that causes stuff to be like way harder than it is.
Yeah.
And like all of that just disappeared
Yeah.
in a Hammer Hunter 120 grain 7mm boat trail.
Yeah.
Boat tail.
So it ended the spell.
Vapor trail.
The dry spell.
I mean, it was just like, that all of those difficulties that
Yeah.
we had been like, experiencing the past however many trips just vanished immediately with the sickest possible way to end a spell like that.
So it was super cool. And then, so we rushed up this, we found his buck. We looked around a little bit, found my buck, and then, dragged him up, took some pictures, got some video. And then we knew the grizzlies were not far probably. So we started getting to work, and, the pack out was tough. It was, I don't know, what would you say? How many vertical feet you think?
It's about 750.
About 750.
About 750 for each load. We ended up doing 2 loads.
Yeah. And, he's got his hunting gear and, 2 quarters and back straps.
Yeah, but my loadout was not nearly as heavy as yours. Your loadout was a pain pill.
I had been all week carrying a full hunting loadout, as well as 2 cameras, extra batteries, tripods, etc. So in this trip, I actually had 2 tripods, 2 cameras, I think 4 sets of extra batteries, puffies, water bottles, all the camera stuff, and all my hunting stuff, which I carry more stuff than him already anyway, just because I wear more clothes and I just have more stuff. I don't know, whatever it is. He's a minimalist, I guess. So I got full camera loadout, full hunting loadout, and, half a deer. So anyway, it was a tough pack out. It wasn't like insane, but it was not easy. We had to do 2 trips.
Honestly, every hunter thinks about this. If you're being completely transparent, Alaska has the rule whereby you have to leave the rack until you've got all the meat packed out.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like you're like a little bit. I mean, you work so hard for those animals, and like between that and having half of the meat there, you're just
I didn't want to leave my stuff there.
Dude, what if there were that grizz showed up and tried to claim those carcasses?
Yeah.
Oh,
I really didn't want to leave stuff there.
It's just scary, that first pack out. But ultimately, like, we talked about trying to just hulk it out and do the whole thing in one. That would have been really disastrous in hindsight. You just have to know, like, hey, we'll get this done, get back as soon as we can, take our time, carefully getting back in to make sure that there's not a grizzly that's claimed your kill site or anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just gotta go through things like slowly, methodically, carefully, do it the right way. That's another really big learning point is I've heard of guys trying to like, oh God, I don't want to leave anything, so I'm gonna take this super huge load and like.
It was already tough enough.
With your full hunting loadout, especially in the morning, like you got a bunch of layers because you're cold glassing first thing.
Yeah.
Got all that, spotting scopes, cameras, guns, all that stuff, plus half a deer. That is a doozy to pack up almost 1,000 feet.
So we got that out, and then got our buddy Tommy. He helped us with the next load, and so that was a little bit lighter, but still it didn't feel any lighter because we'd already done it once, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, that was, like, honestly, that was a fairly strenuous pack. It wasn't the worst thing in the world, but, and we were, like, enjoying ourselves, taking our time, eating
it was a
salmon
beautiful
berries
day.
and stuff. Gorgeous day.
And
but
enjoying the victory, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So-
I mean, it was as Steve would say, type 2 fun.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was
I mean,
great.
yeah, you just gotta know, like, take your time, do it the right way, don't try to rush it.
But as soon as we got back to camp, we did get back to our meat and antlers like ASAP.
Yeah.
We didn't hang around.
No, absolutely. You take the time
offloaded,
necessary, but
and
you
then
get
got
back
in
there
there
and get it ASAP. Because as soon as you get it back to camp and download it in camp inside of a bear fence, you can kind of like breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Especially
Although he hasn't breathed a sigh of relief until it was processed, vacuum sealed, and put in a freezer.
trying to take care of that, man.
No, it feels good, but yeah.
And that's why I said a little bit of a sigh of relief. They're like levels of the size of relief.
Right.
It's like
First like 30 levels.
First one is getting it back to camp.
Yeah.
Second one is knowing that it's going to be in the 30s that night.
Yeah.
Real good for the meat. Third one is getting picked up on time, which did not end up happening because of the weather. So we ended up spending an extra night out there, but there's no sweat because it was still nice and chilly that night. And so then you get picked up, you get it back. That's another sigh of relief. Then you get it like nice and processed, get it cool. Mm-hmm. That's a sigh of relief. And then like the last one is when you get it
all frozen.
Get it into your your freezer back home with the power monitor that sends you the push notification to your cell phone if it loses power.
Oh, you have one of those?
Freezer. Oh, absolutely.
Wow. That's legit, dude. That's
You
next
have
level.
have to.
That's next
For your
level.
chest freezer, man. I mean, you know immediately if there
Can you buy
were
those?
power loss.
Like, oh,
That's for me anyway. For guys like if you are a guy or girl who is really worried about like
well, if you got meat in your fridge,
paranoid
freezer
about
that's like thousands of dollars, or maybe what is it, couple $100 a pound or something? After like flights and all this gear and everything.
But if you work that hard for it, it is really nice to know. That's my final like sigh of relief is knowing that the meat is frozen in my freezer. I forget which kind I have. Okay. They have them on Amazon. But
freezer
in
monitor?
like a freezer that is plugged in at a house with a generator, with the
backup
power monitor that tells you if you lose power to it. At that point, I'm like, okay, we're good now. Now we can start thinking about what kind of burgers we're doing.
So like I'll do a whole nother episode about like logistics and all that stuff because I know a lot of guys are curious about that stuff. We just wanted to get like the story out while it's like fresh and we're still here on Kodiak and the Shelikof Lodge.
And there are a lot of really good learning points from this one, man.
Absolutely.
So like the military side of me, we were talking about this all week. AAR points, right?
After action reports.
Yeah, and like, do you want to go with some of your biggest ones first? Because we got some really good ones, man.
I mean,
really good ones.
A lot of my AAR points, honestly, are like videography related, like gear I didn't need to bring, or gear like I brought an extra tripod I didn't need. I didn't need about half the batteries I brought. The Osmo Pocket 2 was great for motion time lapses. There's a bunch of stuff with that I might do another podcast too, even just about video stuff. But I'm trying to think as far as like hunting. I don't know. Does anything jump out to you right now besides don't buy Salowa boots?
I think the biggest one is sometimes in Alaska, opportunity only knocks once, and that almost happened to us.
Yeah,
like
we got redeemed.
We got very extraordinarily lucky with the way that things shook out at the end there. But whichever one, we got hooked up at the end there.
God helped us out.
Yeah, the big man upstairs was looking out for us. Like if that hadn't happened, then essentially it would have been a story of like missed opportunities because we could have killed that nice one that first night. And like,
so what he's saying is, if you see a buck the first night,
if you're in Alaska and you see an animal like you just got there. Now in some species you have to wait until the next day to hunt, but for deer you do not.
Right.
And I'm like 99% sure that that's the case.
No,
we can fact check.
No, I know it.
Anyway, I just want to make sure before I put stuff out.
I know 100%.
On the record. I also know 100%, but just making sure. Anyway, if you see a nice animal and you are within your legal shooting parameters,
don't pass it up.
Probably think about taking that. Like, is there a really, really good reason for you to pass that thing up? If there's not, you may very well not get an opportunity again. If that nasty stretch of weather had stuck around for another 12 hours, Hunter and I might have eaten our tags.
Yeah.
And
Well, I had multiple tags. I could have even tried that buck the first night, and then but whatever. But yeah,
I'm just
if you get
saying,
an opportunity, take it.
if you get an opportunity in Alaska, things change so quickly up here and so profoundly.
Yeah.
Like not just
Don't just assume
not
you're going to be
just,
seeing
like,
bucks because you saw them the first
right.
day.
If you are in an area and you see a nice one, probably send it on that. And then the other one that I have is if you either are silly like us and pass up a good opportunity initially, or if you are just stuck somewhere, really that backcountry longevity is that is pretty much a common theme in every trip I've ever done up here. It's like, if you can just sit tight until, and this is what ended up being the story of this trip. If you can sit tight until the conditions come around for you,
Yeah.
probably be okay.
Yeah.
Don't
try to be a He-Man and sit in the rain when you can't see 50 yards anyway.
Yeah, sometimes you might have to hunt nasty stuff, but a lot of times, just move with the movement of the ecosystem where you are has been really, really effective. Like if it's terrible and nasty, in this case, the animals were bedded all week, and we were basically just butting our heads against the wall trying to be out there and glass animals into existence, and that's not going to work. And
that
it was
hour nap every day.
We started instituting hour naps, and that was great, real refreshing for you. All it took was that weather window to turn around, and it was just a complete, the same physical place that we were looking at became completely different. Yeah. It was like not even the same planet. The area that we had just been shivering, spending hours and hours glassing over just to see one doe 2 miles away.
We probably glassed over this buck 24 times.
More than that.
Yeah.
More than that. Way more than that. Many dozens or hundreds of times.
It just was hanging tight
over this buck. And all it took was the weather conditions changed, and it went from being a barren question of whether we were even going to have another opportunity all week.
Because we were wondering if we blew the place out.
To which one are we going to pursue? Yeah. It just changed that fast, man. That's my biggest AR point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And then if you know there's good areas like that where you know there's deer in there but they're not moving, that's one thing too. Is we didn't just go bombing and charging into those areas. We got to places where we could glass them and observe them, but we were careful about not charging in kind of blind. That area that we ended up killing our deer in. After we saw, that's the same general area we saw that deer and that buck in the very first night that we didn't go after, but we didn't even go back in there for another day or two after that. We kind of left that until after we had killed Tommy's buck, and then even then we didn't really, we were careful around it.
Yeah. In hindsight, we did play that one just right.
Yeah.
We glassed that area a lot where we killed our 2 bucks, the safari park. We spent a lot of time glassing it, but we did play it smartly in terms of there was no charging down to ridges closer to see if we could get a better angle, as a last ditch effort. We left it. We knew that that area that we were glassing from, if that place comes alive, we're going to see him from there. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. And so instead of blowing it out with some crazy scheme, we just waited until things came around our way, and as soon as those conditions happened, that was just having spent that much time looking in that area for almost no return, and then getting there and it just being bam, 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 seeing how quickly it could change.
And then doubling up. Yeah. So anyway, guys, that's basically the story. Like I said, I just want to share the story with you guys. We're going to have a lot more. I'll have more episodes. Hopefully I can get Ned on Zoom or something. And we can do another episode about logistics. Because I know a lot of people have questions about that and how to do a hunt like that. Like this, it's not that out of reach financially. And it's definitely doable if you want to get up here and experience Alaska. It's not the easiest hunt like we mentioned, but if you're serious about it, you can get tags every year. You can get multiple tags. It's a fun hunt. It's beautiful. I loved it. So show me that deer one more time. And be on the lookout Like I said, it was my first film hunt, but I think we came out with some really good stuff. So, keep an eye out for the films coming out. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back on the next podcast. Thanks, guys. Thanks again for listening to the Hunter's Quest podcast, and make sure you stay up to date on social media at The Hunter's Quest on Instagram and The Hunter's Quest podcast on Facebook. And we'll have all kinds of photos and videos from my day-to-day, as well as stuff from the awesome guests we're having on here. As always, I'm more than happy to connect with you guys if you have questions about hunting or spiritual stuff or gear, fitness, whatever. Just drop me a line in my DMs, or you can email me at hunter@thisishuntersquest.com. If you like what you're hearing, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and leave me a rating and a review. That's really helpful. And don't forget to share with your friends. So stay tuned, lots of cool stuff in the works, and I'm really excited to continue this quest together.